there, but by all accounts, it was one of the main reasons why he came into power.
Said if God gives him and his party power, after 2 unsuccessful attempts, he will build a cathedral for him. How did that become our burden? Are we in power?
It's to the glory. It's to the glory of God.
From a personal cathedral,
that's right,
to a party stand given to God.
That's right.
And now it has become a national cathedral. So first we said we're not going to spend state resources on this, and then I asked the question: but the land, if you put value to it, that's a lot of money.
That's right.
And then we have now broken down homes of judges and companies. We are paying compensation, old passport office. I mean, look at it. And that costs us money.
That's right.
Plus what we have invested into the construction itself, the foundation, the most expensive hole in the whole wide world. And how suddenly things have, I mean, if the minority had not fought it, would have put another 81 million in there.
As was presented to us in the budget. In fact, it was presented by the finance minister.
So how did we get there? That something that was a personal pledge to God, that God, give me power, I will build you a cathedral. It suddenly has become all of us our burden. How did we get there?
You see, this whole thing started with Nana Akufo-Addo's statement that Yetisikaso is accommodate. That statement that he made has affected his thinking throughout all his 8 years. And this is what I'm saying. When he started this free SHS concept, we're asking him how he was going to fund
how much.
So when Yetisikaso is accommodate, we haven't seen the money. So he has that mind that Ghana has money that he is not seeing. So everything that he does, he thinks there's money to do it.
There's money somewhere.
That he throws the vision in, it becomes
but that's a policy. But that's a dadaba mentality.
That's what I'm saying. So you see, when he said he's discussing the comedy, everything he has done has made Ghana, has taken Ghana through some hard times.
Because
when he said the free SHS, they asked him,
BBC
how
asked
are you going to fund the thing? He couldn't say anything. He said 1D, 1F. What was it? Was it the government policy? Was it the PPP? He couldn't answer it very well. Then he brought this 1 million constituency. Where's the money coming from? It became something else. Then he said his own, my pledge to God. Then where's the money? He couldn't find the money. Then he was taking the thing small to Parliament. Parliament gave him the shoulder. We are in trouble. So every decision that this government has taken has been based on that. You watch what I'm saying.
That's an interesting perspective, William.
That he has
As if to say that if we put out this policy, it will take care of it itself somehow.
But that's not how we run an economy.
But you see that's the dadaba mentality.
Dadaba approach. But I'm just making an analysis from that point.
Because if you're a dadaba, right? If you're dadaba, your father has money, your mother has money, plenty money. You don't worry about how much Davi is selling a scoop of a gobe for you. You don't, because you won't join the queue. When you are hungry and say, "Mom, I'm hungry," the food is there. You can just tell the chef or the cook or whoever is there that I want lunch, and it is there. You don't have to worry about how to go and get the lunch.
The only problem that I see about this government is financial. All the ideas they brought solid, but the financial bit of it has not been calculated well, for which reason we are all suffering today. Because everything that the government has, one agenda, one hospital.
Hey, the one's plenty you.
But we are because you want to break. You see to what I'm saying. You want to break Labadi, La General Hospital, Johnny.
Yes.
You want to break. It was a financial decision.
Yes.
It wasn't just a medical decision.
And you didn't have the money.
You didn't have the money. That's what Akufo-Addo has done from 2017
up until now.
And that's what he has done.
But to add on to what William is saying, I want to add another problem as well. Is priorities.
I'm saying that you look at the government of Akufo-Addo from the beginning to today, every decision that he has taken, he hasn't done the financials.
For me, the prioritization has been very problematic. So that you have things like, we want to partner with SA to bring SkyTrain. At the time when our roads look like this, our land rail is bad.
What I've said to you, this rail, whatever, was it rail or
SkyTrain?
Where were the financials? Tell me. Why didn't it happen? Money. Because you run the economy based on what you have. Yeah. But this man will come and throw in the big things, and then he doesn't have the money. Then sometimes they force and push it. Then all of us are tight. This e-levy, why are we still having to pay COVID levy? And it's because the financials in other spaces are not there.
So
we have
weak.
to squeeze you.
Even when WHO says COVID is no longer a pandemic, we are still paying COVID
they
levy.
can't afford to scrap some of these because we are so tight.
Look, 30 years ago, I was telling myself that when I'm 50, this is how I want to see it. That was my dream. That was my future.
Yeah.
Today, that future is here. And I'm still struggling. Because somebody is not thinking, if you talk about the future, they see it some way.
Yeah, it's
as
too
if it's
far
100
off.
years.
I remember being a kid. They said Vision 2020. I thought, wow.
And now we are going to 2030.
We've gone past 2020.
That is happening.
Yeah, we've gone past
You see,
2020.
Look, when they started this Achimota and Sound Road, then they say the road has become an albatross. It's exactly because of financial. This road that they are doing every morning, we are struggling to come here. This morning, they diverted the road after anybody. I was listening to.
Really?
Yes. Listen to Peace FM. A lot of them live there. The Peace FM boys.
Right.
They are talking about Kweku. All this, their sports club was lead because of that thing. This morning. Because the money is not there for them to do the thing fast. So they are struggling to do the road. The last time we checked, they say it's 40% done. Why is the government moving on visions without financial
The government's dream and the taxpayers' burden. That's where we find ourselves now.
That's right.
Everything.
But how? Because you have.
Me have explained to you that thing he said. See, it is also come there, no. That's how he thinks.
But you see, we have in the first term we had a minister for monitoring and evaluation. In the first term, we had a minister for planning.
Does every ministry not have some type of evaluation?
No, but I'm saying that we actually set up a whole ministry
unnecessarily.
I'm saying that we set up a whole ministry for monitoring and evaluation. We gave it to Dr. Akuto said late. Then we set up a whole ministry of planning. We gave it to Professor Jambafo, who's now at the NDPC.
Yeah, you see?
So if you set up a planning ministry and a monitoring and evaluation ministry, and you still go ahead to implement things as if you have no plan, you are not monitoring, there's no research, there's no facts and figures backing it, you have not done the financials as William is talking about, then there's a problem.
Yeah. You see, because
all those people, after the first term, they took ex-gratia. They had cooks, they had maids, they had garden boys, they had free fuel, they had free vehicle, they used diplomatic passport, they had all the perks, they were taking per diem after each travel, everything. So if after investing all of these in them, and we are still where we are, and it doesn't look as if we have a clear path.
The dream.
But gentlemen, can we add a lack of participation to the list of things that we don't like about this government? Because I can cite so many examples. Even this cathedral we're talking about this morning, there's a reason why we're represented in parliament, so that we too can have a say. And if slowly by slowly this now private entity, private public, now public entity has been put upon us, where do we get an opportunity to weigh in on whether or not it is a good financial decision, so that my MP, even was she around at that time, Adra Safu, to even have my say represented? I'm not sure. I parked that. But none of us got a say. Something like this, you bring it to parliament and then we judge, or we bring our views.
When the thing went to parliament, what was the discussion? The discussion was financial. It was not. There was no discussion. 80 million. No.
Prior to that.
The matter came seriously to parliament when they were looking for the money through the budget.
Yes.
And that discussion was financial.
That was after they had spent some monies already
without parliamentary approval.
Yes.
Then you come after that to say you are looking for 80 million. When in the first instance, you didn't allow for collaboration. You didn't allow for any other views, because you gave some ideas that, the Bible Museum can serve as a tourist attraction. Others wanted to weigh in on that.
But you see, those were the later thoughts.
Yes, the afterthoughts.
The first thing is that, and the fact is that it was Nana Dodanko Akufo-Addo who said, God, if you give me power after 2 unsuccessful attempts, I will build you a cathedral. That's the first one. And then he went outside the country raising funds from people other than government, right, to start the whole cathedral. And then he came back to say, we are not going to use state resources, but the state will only provide the land.
They said also seed money. They quoted a figure.
Yes.
Seed money.
No, the seed money came after the land.
After the land, right.
So I'm just building the chronology. Then the seed money came into the thing. And then they set up a short code. Remember?
Yes.
That you can contribute. And that is not state money. And then you had the likes of Duncan Williams and the rest preaching in church and actually taking us through the debt. There's a sermon, a whole sermon. He took us, all those who were asking questions, he took us through the death and he was trying to equate it to the Muslims have their national mosque and nobody complained about it.
But we know how that was funded.
It
wasn't on the Turkish that enabled us to do
but
that.
he used that as a sermon.
That analogy annoys me.
Today, the National Cathedral people are saying that he is a liar. He says that Istudanaba is a liar.
You see,
they are calling you liars.
The explanation I got was that when it comes to financing the thing, there are differences in ideology. The ideology meaning, if they say government should fund, some people are not happy, so they are leaving, the trustees. If they say they are going for loan, as they as people, they don't want to loan, so they are leaving. If they want to take the money from the people, that's not, so they are leaving. That's what they are saying.
No,
so it also tells us that still, there's no financial direction for that project.
But you see, that is the explanation that the National Cathedral wants to put to it because the people are no longer there. The first to resign from the group was Dag Heward-Mills, right? He was the first to resign from the group, not Otabil.
Not Mensa Otabil.
Mensa Otabil left without a word.
Okay.
After Dag Heward-Mills.
Okay.
And that's how come they kept Mensa Otabil's photo still on the website.
That's right.
But Dag Heward-Mills wrote and gave reasons why he left.
That's right.
One of the reasons he gave was that even him, as a private church, he has been able to put up that magnificent thing around the Blekusu area.
Yes.
And it didn't cost half of what the National Cathedral was quoting as having used just for foundation. And that even there, the space is way bigger than what we are doing at National Cathedral. And it cost him way less. So sitting around that table, he didn't think that it should cost us so much. He thought that things were not going the way it had to go. Again, it comes back to the financials.
He said he had asked many questions that had gone unanswered.
Thank you. So he didn't, because on his own, and he has a proven track record.
That's right.
That, look, this is what I'm able to build with my church people.
They build
without loans. If you go to that place, you see the place is a whole convention. Yes, Anakazo. Big place. Big place.
And that's what we're expecting the National Cathedral to even look like.
No.
In terms of
and if you collaborate and you allow for discussion, some of these things can come to you.
You are thinking too much, William.
That's where we thought the National Cathedral should be.
Yes.
Somewhere different.
Not in the
city center. And so this explanation about ideological differences and things, I'm just worked up because they are just wasting everybody's time with this financial. They are not seeing it clearly.
No.
You see?
No.
This is a real Motromojo kind of thing. We'll come back to this conversation. Let's talk about Fitch, the ratings agency. They have upgraded Ghana's long-term local currency issuer default ratings IDR to CCC, and somebody says C Nanako. This is from CCC to CCC from RD. And Fitch typically does not assign outlooks to sovereigns with a ratings of CCC plus or below. Fitch has also affirmed Ghana's long-term foreign currency IDR at RD and the currency ceiling at B minus. Fitch has assigned CCC ratings to 2 interest-only bond issues on completion of pension funds, holding of domestic debt exchange. Fitch has also assigned CCC ratings to 4 domestic US dollar denomination bonds issued on the 4th of September 2023. A full list of the ratings action is at the end of the ratings action commentary, and we'll share that with you. But joining us on the phone line now is Professor John Gachi, who is with the University of Cape Coast. Prof, thank you very much indeed for your time. Good morning. Hello, Prof. Good morning. Professor Bokpin, good morning.
Hello, yes, good morning.
Yes, Professor Bokpin of the University of Ghana. Prof, thank you so much indeed for joining us this morning. So all this English that I read, what exactly does it mean for the uninitiated?
Thank you very much. Typically, these rating agencies assess the probability of default, ability to pay by issuers, and also to guide the market. Typically, they are supposed to be professionals, unbiased, but of course, it's also a human institution. We've seen in the time past and all that. But I think in the case of Ghana, the current upgrade is not surprising. It's largely consistent with expectations, and my considered view is that the market has already incorporated those news long ago. And why are we saying that? So when Ghana announced the preemptive debt restructuring. We call it preemptive debt restructuring, meaning that before the default occurs, you take steps to restructure. So you can restructure when you are actually in a default position, or you can take a preemptive debt restructuring approach. What we adopted was largely preemptive, meaning that we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was just a matter of time. And therefore, government initiated those steps. At the time that the government initiated those steps, we were almost in a position not to be able to pay. And that is why at that particular time, the rating agencies assigned restricted default to our rating. What it means is that we were already in a junk territory. We were far below investment grade. In other words, we had deteriorated to a zone where no reasonable investor would want to lend to Ghana government. That's what it means. No reasonable investor would want to lend to Ghana government. It's also on the basis of that we are able to say that we've lost market assets. So what it means is that the market kicks you out. So the international capital market, or let me put it this way, the traditional Western idea of financial market imposes some kind of disciplinary measures to weed out unattractive borrowers and punishes them by imposing higher yield as a protection of their perceived default position. And by so doing, they kick you out. So, for instance, let me give you an example. Somewhere middle of 2022, okay, the spread, there's this measure we call spread, which is the difference between the yield on Ghana government instruments,
right,
and then U.S. Treasury yield. So the U.S. Treasury yield is like the risk-free benchmark in the market. And every other country's bond issue, the yield is compared to the U.S. Treasury yield. The difference between the U.S. Treasury yield and that of Ghana government was more than 8,000 basis points. I will explain that.
Please do.
1 basis point is 1% of 100. I don't know whether that is again clearer.
It's clear.
A good way to understand that is that 8,000 basis point translates to 80%. You know what I mean?
Right.
That in 2022, if Ghana government had gone to the market, the least cost at which we could borrow would have been 80% plus U.S. Treasury yield. Who will borrow at that rate?
Of course, nobody.
And who will even lend you money? Okay, so we said that we had lost market access, so we had been downgraded much more in a junk territory. And also, we were assigned restricted default, meaning that we could not pay. We were not in a position to pay. Even if we asked for more time, we could not pay. But now that we are largely done with the domestic debt restructuring, it is just meaningful and logical that tag of restricted default is lifted. More so because the Ministry of Finance in the last couple of months has taken steps to clear all arrears, even with those individual bondholders and others who didn't tender. And we said that was the way to go because you needed to sanitize the market, you needed to restore confidence. Otherwise, all that we have gone through with the domestic debt restructuring will be a zero-sum game in terms of restoring confidence and the rest of them. So it's largely consistent. So, but we are not out of the woods. You know,
the finance minister said we have taken the bend. That's contrary to what you are saying.
We have not. Look, let me tell you something. You know, we need to be measured with the way we celebrate success. Okay? It's premature to claim victory. In any case, the recovery we are seeing here, you can trace it to haircuts that people have gone through. So people have sacrificed so much for Ghana to have this kind of recovery. And we have to be measured in how we take credit. Remember, the fiscal space that we created through the domestic debt estimate alone is almost 61 billion cedis. Is that okay?
Right.
That fiscal space that government is celebrating represents pain, cost, losses on the books of households, individuals, banks, non-bank financial institutions, including offshore investors in our local government, local dollar-denominated bonds. That is the price. That is the price people have paid, not government. Government didn't pay a price because the fiscal adjustment, government did not do the meaningful. The government did not do the needful. Government did not pay any price. The recovery we are seeing here, the price is borne by Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians. So if any politician wants to take credit for the recovery we are seeing, let's look at the data and let's be humble. Let's sympathize with the pain that Ghanaians are going through and non-Ghanaians are going through in order for Ghana to have a fresh start.
So, Prof, if I hear you right, the liquidity pressures is on the citizens and private business people and not on government.
Yes. As we speak right now, go and check the lending pattern of banks. Whether they are actually lending to private sector the way they were doing before the DDEP. Go and check. Okay? So what we are saying is that macroeconomic stability will be restored at a great cost, unlike in the time past. We haven't gone through something like this before. Remember what pensioners had to go through for Ghana to have a fresh start. Look, what is even more worrying that I think every Ghanaian should be interested is how do we make use of this fiscal space that has been conferred on politicians who on the average are not driven by the common good. We have a fiscal space of more than 60 billion cedis. Do you get a point? The question is, how are we going to use this fiscal space to ensure development that is sustainable, inclusive, broad-based? We should be interested in how the 2024 budget is going to look like.
There have been calls by the business community for certain taxes to be scrapped so that it can give some breathing space to, if you will, the businesses that you talk about, which are not doing well.
I agree.
But again, elements within the government say, look, we need this money or these monies to be able to turn things around because...
Please, we don't need that. Let me tell you something. What Ghana is practicing is not taxation, it's robbery. What Ghana is presiding over right now is not taxation. It's not born out of tax policy. It's state-sponsored robbery. It's what we have in the form of taxes. Where will you find the kind of taxes we have here? Go to the port and see the layers of taxes. How do you do that and expect your private sector to grow and create jobs? We will be unique to think that by presiding over this fiscal regime, tax and the rest of them, some way, somehow, private sector-led economic transformation and inclusive productivity growth will just happen. No. What we call nation building is intentional. It's a creation, step by step. What we have here is not taxation, it's robbery. You go and buy something at a VAT register shop and see the layers of taxes. We are creating a financially repressed society where a few people, through corrupt practices, will be at the top and control the financial space. This is what we are doing. We are creating a financially repressed society, and it's not sustainable. It's not safe for anyone.
How fast are we doing this, Prof?
It's already telling all over the place. Remember, the World Bank just told us that inflation-induced poverty alone, the inflation that pushed people into poverty, we are talking about people in excess of 800,000, right?
Yes.
These days, when you drive through the traffic, you look at the aggressiveness with which people sell by the roadside. And sometimes all that they are carrying, even if you buy everything, their profit may not be up to 20 cedis. And sometimes when they are begging you to buy something, they are saying that I just want something to go and eat. They have not eaten.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
People go to bed not being sure where their next meal will come from. Go to the universities and see. University students go through the whole day. They have not eaten. Why do we put our own people through that? Okay, you know, if you look at the kind of taxes we have imposed in the system, there's so much burden on the average Ghanaian who is in the middle class. Because we are like Liverpool, we never sleep alone, we never walk alone, we don't wake up alone. So your salary, there are so many people who depend on it. You would have paid your taxes, consumption-based taxes alone. So come on. You do know something?
Tell me.
This is common sense. There is no way individuals can accumulate savings for proper investment. And if individuals are not accumulating savings, no proper investment, it means that the country itself cannot accumulate capital to take advantage of the limited economic opportunities that are being created. And that is why this country, every opportunity that shows up, it's only foreigners who can take advantage of it because they're able to accumulate capital in their countries, bring it here, and they are able to undo Ghanaians. We cannot grow like this. There is no future in this.
Prof,
So we have greater fiscal space. We need to take our legs off the accelerator a bit and begin to cut private sector households and businesses. There are some taxes that should go. E-levy should go. COVID-19 health levy should go. Let's merge the state levy with the VAT and peg it at below 18%. Let me tell you something. Malaysia, Singapore, you know, we can have a deeper conversation on this.
Right.
They did not develop on the back of more revenue. They did so on the back of efficiency, lean government. This is how they made it. All over the world, that is how they are doing. We learned that from basic economics. Resources are scarce. They are limited in supply. The good thing about that statement is that those scarce resources have alternative uses. So countries that maximize the alternative uses of scarce resources, they are the ones who make the difference.
But don't our economists in government and in power and at high places know all these principles you're talking about, Prof?
Yes, they know. There's one thing knowing, and there's another thing having that will, the tenacity, to be driven by the common good and say we are going all out to do what we know. What you see happening in Ghana sometimes is pure wickedness. Wickedness by people who are in position of trust, and they are supposed to use that for the development that will benefit the ordinary Ghanaian who may never get that opportunity to occupy those positions. And when we get those opportunities, occupy those positions, we are thinking about self and self and self and self. That's all. We are insensitive to human life. We are insensitive to suffering. So we drive through the traffic in our V8, in air conditions. We see the poor by the roadside. We see them queuing. We see them struggling. Our heartbeat doesn't even change. We are losing humanity in us.
Prof, the Fitch, for example, says that they anticipate a decline in general government debt to 87% of GDP at the end of 2023 from 89% in 2022, driven by the 50% haircut of the Bank of Ghana's holdings of non-marketable debt, which represents a debt reduction of 4.2% of estimated 2023 GDP. Fitch expects this will be partly offset by 33% year-on-year CD depreciation compared with end 2022 and the primary deficit. So they are looking forward to the public debt declining. But if you look at now, we're beginning to look good a bit, and then already the indications that if we start looking good again and we get access to the market, we will go and borrow again. Do you see this projection by Fitch as being a reality?
Yes, so largely we can go back to the IMF debt sustainability framework analysis, okay?
Right.
After the end of the DSA, our debt to GDP ratio in present value terms was around 109%. If you account for the depreciation right after that, we are looking at something around 112% of GDP in present value terms. The IMF has indicated that our debt sustainability threshold should come to 55%, and the tax end date is 2028. So from now to 2028 is what we are looking at over the horizon. Okay, so we expect that there will be some kind. Remember, let me put it this way: that the fiscal space that we are talking about has not translated to immediate cash, right? It has to be generated. It has to be generated. We have to be able to generate cash flows in order to realize that fiscal space the way we have to. If you look at the IMF supported program, the earliest we can go to the international capital market by program is 2027. Is that okay? Right. So from now, and if you look at the IMF program, even by the end of 2027, our debt would have come down significantly to the 55% in present value terms. Of course, the discount rate the IMF and the World Bank uses for the debt sustainability analysis is around 5%. Okay, so that is how we are looking at it. So we need to. There's a lot we have to do. Again, of course, I lean towards the discussing there because we're also looking at the valuation effect in terms of depreciation, right? But if the outlook will become much more clearer once we are done with the external debt restructuring, and if government is able to walk away with a proposed haircut of 30 to 40% and the coupon reduction, all of that put together should put us on a path. We wouldn't have arrived. Will put us on a path of debt sustainability, which means that we have to be consistent on that path. It's going to be a narrow path. Okay, we have to be consistent on that. But the issue Ghanaians need to bear in mind is that let's not look at this fiscal space as though it's all that we needed. We've been there before. When we finished the HEPEC relief initiative in 2004,
right,
and also finished the multilateral debt relief initiative in 2006, Ghana received more than $4 billion of debt forgiveness, in addition to forgiveness of sins. Our debt to GDP ratio came down to less than 30%. Can you imagine? We are talking about end of 2006. Our debt to GDP ratio, accounting for all the debt, was around 26% of GDP. Look at the fiscal space. Debt to GDP ratio, 26%. You see how we use that fiscal space? And less than 2 decades or so, we are talking about another debt ratio. So this fiscal space, we need to put in place the right measures, governance reforms, so that we are able to anchor these gains and make them sustainable. But I'm not seeing that from the political space. I'm not seeing that in terms of whether this is influencing behavioral change, fiscal reforms, governance reforms. I'm not seeing that. And once you don't see that, look, you can't continue doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. It's just a matter of time. This fiscal space will be abused.
Do you see, for example, I mean, there have been calls for the president to cut down on the size of his government. And as you alluded to, other countries that have shown the way, run by lean government because resources are not altogether available, they're scarce, etc. Do you see in the dying days of this government that the president would at least listen, then this becomes a legacy for him, that he took the economy on the wrong path, but towards the end he brought it on the right path so that he will cut down the size of his government? Do you see that?
Well, I don't want to say I've given up on this president. Time is not on his side to leave a legacy. And I'm sure in the next couple of months, as 2024 election approaches, the president will be thinking through how he wants Ghanaians to remember him. That is a decision he has to make. How does he want to be remembered? When he is out of office, how does he want to be remembered? But he should just know that what he's been told and what he's doing may not reflect the reality. May not.
Professor Bokpin.
He is actually, if he's not careful, it's not like, please, I voted for MPP in 2016, for the record. Okay, I will not run away from that.
Right.
We expected something far better than what we are seeing now. And I just want the president to know that there's some level of disappointment in us. And we are hoping that in the next 1.5 years, Nana that we used to know, I don't know what has happened. I believe that the president will be mindful to leave a legacy that we'll be proud of, that we can talk about, that he also made an impact. Later as may be, too late though, but the president should leave a legacy. We want to see something. We will have to see some changes. He didn't just come for his inner core. He came for every Ghanaian. And if those around him are happy, he should be interested that every Ghanaian is equally happy. But as it stands now, there's some level of disappointment, and you can see it from our voice. Thank you.
Professor Godfred Bokpin, I thank you very much indeed for your time. He's an economist and also with the finance department of the University of Ghana, Legon. Thank you, Prof, for your time this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And that's Professor Bokpin there.
No be fool.
For me what I need to do and what I do not need to do. It's as simple as that. I don't have time for things like that. People like that are not important to me or to my life. There is a disturbance. That's all I've got to say about it.
What do you say to the new directive from government, the new statement coming from government that there is an option, a voluntary option that you can sign on and get your monies paid?
But that whole program is now over, isn't it? Yes, and we chose not to sign on to it. Now, the way things are going, what I sense and what I smell is the creation of two categories of people or two classes of people. Those who have been exempted by the hey, you want me to lick it? Those who have been exempted by the issuer. I think Doctor was very clear with the distinction. Yes, and then now they are calling those who refused to sign on to the debt exchange. They're calling them self-exempted. No, they simply refused to sign. They just simply want to stand by the original bond that they have with the government. And the word bond is not used as a casual term. Bond means tied to. Yes. And when a government bond can be tossed up and down the tides like that, flip-flop, that's a serious thing. For me, my problem with this whole thing is the destruction of the image of this nation, and something that is being done which will last for generations. It took a long time before normal Ghanaians would even buy anything that is government, because there was always the suspicion, tomorrow you don't know what will happen. Now they are reintroducing that. All that needs to be done. And Doctor was talking about a letter, simple letter that was written by the association.